time.
Are you a weeper?
On the sofa.
Do you have a cry at those?
I do now. I think that's come with age, I think. I didn't used to. Now I'll weep at adverts.
Oh, God.
If an advert's good enough and gets you going, yes. And the one thing I know will get me going is the Christmas Carol concert that, that Princess Catherine has done.
I was crying my eyes out.
Honestly, those carols just get me crying. Why is it? It just gets all the emotions going, doesn't it?
Okay, Winston and Lynn, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas. God bless you.
Say that now, because it's only free sleep.
Come on.
Christmas. Here's the weather with Craig Snell.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Met Office. Well, as we look ahead towards Christmas, after a very windy and cold feeling day today, actually the weather does turn milder as we approach Christmas Day itself, but with plenty of cloud too. Back to the here and now for Sunday. It's going to be a very windy day, as I mentioned, across many parts, but especially so for many northern and western areas. Warnings are in force from the Met Office right throughout the day, so if you do have any travel plans, do allow some extra time for your journeys. Away from the wind, it's really going to be a day of sunny spells and scattered showers across many parts. Showers turn into sleet and snow, especially across the high ground in the north, and that strength of the wind really is going to make things feel bitterly cold. On the thermometer, we could see highs reaching around 7 to 9, but certainly feeling sub-zero, especially for parts of Scotland. So as we end the day, still some further showers moving in across many parts of Scotland. The sleet and snow across the high ground could just give a little bit of ice in places. Maybe fewer showers for Northern Ireland and the rest of England and Wales, with the clearest of the skies really over towards the far southeastern corner. Moving towards the early hours of Monday morning, the winds will gradually ease across many parts. That allows more in the way of clear skies to develop. So we probably will see a widespread frost developing as we start Monday morning. Could just still see a few showers across Scotland, again just maintaining a risk of some ice here. But most towns and cities falling down to low single figures, in the countryside certainly below freezing. So Monday morning itself, a bright but frosty start for a lot of us. Plenty of crisp winter sunshine to be had, but out towards the west, thicker cloud, outbreaks of rain moving in, and that will herald something a little bit milder moving in. So temperatures gradually rising in the west as we go through Monday, but out towards the east, hanging on to the colder conditions for one more day. But here we will maintain with the sunshine right throughout the afternoon.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God. This is amazing.
I'm in shock.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Osama bin Laden issued a fatwa entitled World Front for Combat Against Jews and Crusaders, and President George W. Bush talked of a crusade on terrorism. In 2010, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula sent a parcel bomb to New York. It was addressed to Reginald of Chatillon. The addressee had died at the hands of Saladin in 1187. Those facts suggest that the long history of struggle between Christendom and Islamic caliphates remains relevant, at least to some militant Islamists. That being the case, perhaps we should all understand the past. General Sir Simon Mayle, a former Deputy Chief of the Defence Staff Operations, can be our teacher, particularly if we want to know in gory detail about battles to control Jerusalem, Constantinople, Vienna and the Eastern Mediterranean. His new book is called The House of War. It's an excellent read, which perhaps ought to figure in a national adult curriculum. And he joins me. But let's begin with the word crusade. What was it that drove Christians around Europe to want to cross to the Holy Land and seize Jerusalem?
Context and timing is really important to understand. It's been rather stereotyped as Christian aggression against peace-loving Muslims. The Islamic religion had burst out of the desert in the 7th century with the death of the Prophet Muhammad, and for the next nearly 400 years had Christianity, Christendom, the Christian states absolutely on the back foot. It took the Holy Land, destroyed the Persian Empire, took the North Africa, which was Christian at the time, including Egypt, of course, took Spain all the way into Tours, Charles Martel. 100 years after the death of the Prophet, it expanded in an extraordinary state.
GB News, the People's Channel.
A very good morning to you. The whole of Germany stands in dog hours with the people of Magdeburg.
Yeah, we now know that 4 adults and a 9-year-old child were killed, with more than 200 other people injured.
And the 50-year-old man accused of their murder has now been remanded in custody.
The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has been called a Christmas Grinch, as it's revealed that her tax changes in the budget means that 45 pence in every pound donated to charity will now effectively go to the taxman.
And the cost of the Green Dream, a new grocery tax designed to achieve the government's net zero targets, will push up household shopping bills for all Brits by an astonishing £1.4 billion a year.
And we know that this is what you really want to talk about, pork pies. In Britain's rural capital of food, bakers are working tirelessly right now to ensure that every dinner table has a traditional pork pie for Christmas Day. And our reporter, Will Hollis, will tell us all about it. Wonderful tradition.
Beautiful.
Good morning. It's a cold and blustery day for most of us today, but temperatures are on the rise as we approach Christmas Day. Find out all the weather details with me coming up a little later on.
Hang on to your hats, it's just gone 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm Martin Daubney.
And I'm Ann Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast. Pork pies. Pork pies have really got you going. It's incredible sometimes. You don't know quite what's going to get people all excited. And you might think it's Christmas, but it's not. It's pork pies this morning. So it'll be in a few minutes' time, probably 10 or so minutes. No, maybe a bit longer. We will go back to Melton Mowbray and find out how they make pork pies and how they make them so incredibly special. And I do warn you that as soon as you've seen it, you will want to eat one, even if you're a vegetarian like me. Really got me going.
You're converted by the pork pie package.
And the other thing that got us going was parsley sauce.
Yeah.
There are some things. Tom Harwood is here with us because you're doing Camilla's show today. What is a sort of Christmas comfort food that you love?
Stuffing.
Ooh, yeah.
Always stuffing. And there will always be some sort of pot of it in the middle of the table, and I will invariably go back, not just for seconds, not for thirds, but probably fourths and fifths as well. It is just absolute comfort food.
Smothered in gravy?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you take it in balls or in sheets or inside the bird?
You need to dollop it. So there's always some sort of...
Oh, you like it sludgy?
Le Creuset sort of thing, and you scoop it out and plop it down on the plate.
Yeah,
and what about Yorkshire puds? Do you do Yorkshire puds as a big bake, or do you do individuals? And do you like them to be absolutely, conform to a certain shape, or do you like them where they go all crusty and wild?
I like a big sort of monster that just does whatever it wants.
Yeah, me
chop
too.
into it, chuck it around.
See, I might be a heathen here, but I don't think that I don't have Yorkshire puddings with Christmas.
See, I do.
Christmas lunch. No, I don't. I have roast potatoes, yes. Yorkshire puds, no.
Heresy.
You've got to have a Yorkshire pud.
I don't know. I would on a normal Sunday lunch, but not on a Christmas lunch.
No, I know. I know that's common. If you look at pictures of, big chefs' Christmas lunch, they don't include the Yorkshire pud, which I think's bad because you should. But I even like mint sauce, and I don't have lamb because I'm a vegetarian. I have a nut roast or something for me. But I love.
You sound like the most carnivorous vegetarian that has ever walked the earth.
Yeah. Well, I was a carnivore at one point, and so you don't forget,
Well, we'll put it this way. This morning, during Will Hollis's pork pie package, Ann Diamond said can we send out some pork pie?
Yeah.
So I don't think actually that's that strict a vegetarian.
We've got an M&S really near us here.
It's the
at GB
headquarters
Towers.
of the M&S of M&S in the country.
But it's not open on a Sunday until about 11.
Did you see that? We just heard now, Ray, we might have some pork pie in the building. Oh. That's a game changer. Look, there is some serious politics going on to sink our teeth into. Before we just keep talking about pork pies for another 15 minutes, because, of course, Camilla Tomlin's show at 9:30 today, and hosting today is Tom Harwood. Tom, you got some Christmas crackers for us.
That's right. Perhaps surprisingly, the politics doesn't stop at Christmas. Today, we're going to be talking to the leader of the House of Commons, Lucy Powell. She's boasting that 30 bills are before Parliament since the new government got into power, and she'll be talking through exactly what the government is doing, because let's be honest, it hasn't been a great start. We've been looking at the polling. I mean, has any government after an election collapsed this quickly in terms of public satisfaction? So we're not just going to be talking to Lucy Powell, but also the pollster, Martin Baxter, who's going to tell us exactly what's going on, also ahead of what might be local elections. But of course, some of those local elections might be cancelled next year. We've also got on for the Tories, Kevin Hollinrake, who shadows Angela Rayner in the House of Commons. He used to be Shadow Business, now Shadow MHCLG. So I'm going to be asking him, given that the Labour Party has collapsed in the view of the public so precipitously, why are the Tories polling about the same as they did at the last general election as well? We've now got three parties milling about in the mid-20s. It's a very unpredictable political landscape. And also we'll be having the former Migration Minister, Tom Pursglove, on to look back at the year in politics.
And I wonder, an article we've been talking about all morning in the Mail today, could this possibly be Keir Starmer's first and last Christmas in Downing Street? You're talking there about this erratic, schizophrenic polling, the emergence of reform, potentially Musk's millions being thrown to the mix. People feeling very chagrined about the fact these elections could be pushed down the road. Politics very, very volatile. Could Sir Keir Starmer just enjoy his one and only Christmas at Downing Street?
Well, never say never. And, of course, a week's a long time. It feels like a day's a long time in politics at the moment.
It does at the moment.
But, of course, Dan Hodges, who wrote that in the Mail on Sunday, he's got his ear to the ground in Westminster and has definitely picked up dissatisfaction amongst Labour MPs. Now, of course, just because some Labour MPs are discussing whether or not to remove Keir Starmer doesn't mean he'll be removed. I mean, he's got a huge majority in Parliament,
Yeah, but to
and
be fair,
Labour
it's not
PMs
his
are stickier.
It's Labour's majority, not his.
But Labour PMs are stickier than Conservative PMs. We've seen the Tories are a very fratricidal, patricidal party. They're very happy to stab their leaders in the back and chuck them out. We've seen it time and time again, whether it's Margaret Thatcher or Ian Duncan Smith or David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss.
Yes, they went quickly.
I mean, you name it. But look what happened to Neil Kinnock. He was given 2 goes before he then voluntarily resigned himself. Tony Blair said he'd do 2 elections. He actually did 3.
Yeah.
Gordon Brown was polling terribly and was never removed. That was an election that removed him. Ed Miliband, there was discussion about whether or not he would be removed in 2013, 2014. He stuck about.
Is that
Labour
loyalty
stick with their leaders.
Well, yes, but is that loyalty or foolishness?
Well, I think some of it is the Labour tradition, is how the party works. Of course, it's very easy in the Conservative Party to send your letters to Sir Graham Brady and then force a vote. The Labour Party doesn't have that system. There is no Sir Graham Brady of the Labour Party. So, yes, it's possible to exert pressure to force people out, but the formal mechanisms that exist within the Conservative Party aren't paralleled within the Labour Party.
And yet, you have to wonder, with the people that the Labour Party have seemed to single out and pick on, are very politically motivated and get out and vote. WASPy women, pensioners, winter fuel allowance, rural communities, 100 Labour MPs now thinking, I didn't sign up for this inheritance tax hike on farming. They're the most unpopular people in their constituencies. Could we see a rural revolt? Could we see pressure being put on MPs with a small majority, with a bigger number of pensioners who lost their winter fuel allowance. Lots of different angles of attack across a wide but shallow majority. There could be some bad news in the new year for Keir Starmer.
There certainly could be, and all of those groups that you mentioned that the government has certainly not been particularly kind towards, or seem not to be, they're also deeply sympathetic groups. So whilst farmers are not great in number, people really appreciate farmers across the country, and it's the knock-on effect of that can really take place. But even if 100 Labour MPs are so irate they want to throw out a Prime Minister after winning a massive majority, I mean, that's less than a quarter of the parliamentary party of the Labour Party. It's hard to overstate just how many MPs they have, how fractured the vote became. And, I mean, the Labour Party got in with 411 seats, I think I'm right in saying. Now, the next largest party is the Tories on 121. That's the gulf we're looking at across the green benches.
Long way to go. That's the Camilla Tomney Show with Tom Holwood from 9:30 straight after breakfast. Tom, excellent. Thank you. Cheers.
Now, I think it's time for our poll of the day. So today's question is, do you agree with the government's new grocery tax in order to hit net zero targets? So far, 3% of you agree and 97% disagree.
Yeah, so I think the 3% of votes there, I don't know, from Ed Miliband, just going click, 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 click. Everybody else seems to be massively against it, and a small wonder, £1.6 billion inflation onto your groceries. This is packaging costs. That's retailers, manufacturers being told to clamp down on. Of course, the cost will just be passed on straight to the consumers. 56 quid per person per year on green levies. No wonder 97% you're finding it sticking in your craw.
And of course, that poll could change, the result could change during the day, so the final result will be announced later on in Nana Akwe's show. And if you want to know even more, just go to gbnews.com/poll.
Thank you very much. Now, this is our top story today. Following the devastating attack at a Christmas market in the German city of Magdeburg, the Saudi Arabian government are claiming that they repeatedly warned German authorities about the man suspected of driving a car into those crowds on Friday night.
The German media are reporting the man's identity as Taleb al-Abdulmozen, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor that Germany's interior minister says holds Islamophobic views.
And the suspect has been arrested and remains under investigation on suspicion of murder, attempted murder and also bodily harm.
200 people injured, we now know, 5 dead, including a 9-year-old girl. Germany is facing a Christmas mourning them all.
And meanwhile, Christmas market security is being reviewed back here in Britain. In London, the Metropolitan Police are warning the public to stay vigilant in the wake of Friday's attack.
Well, earlier on, we spoke to social policy analyst Rakib Ehsan.
People have argued that the background and the supposed ideology of the suspect is very different, or rather doesn't match up to his actions. And I question that. And the reason I do is because the suspect is known to be an anti-Islam atheist activist. And there's many people who seem to be suggesting that this was just a big plan which was hatched up in order to relocate to Germany. In fact, is a hardened Islamist extremist. And I'll tell you why that theory doesn't add up. Because this Saudi refugee, the suspect, relocated to Germany back in 2006. He was granted refugee status in 2016. And are we seriously suggesting that he kept up this act all this time in order to carry out an Islamist terrorist attack as recently as this month? So I think that some of the theories that I've seen being peddled are incredibly suspect in my view.
And we have live pictures on our screen there from Magdeburg. That's floral tributes being laid down by locals, of course, as the entire country comes together in its mourning for those who've been lost and injured. But it's also worth pointing out, Rakib, that here is an individual that was wanted for deportation in Saudi Arabia. There are people coming forward claiming that they've been targeted by him. They are ex-Muslims. And the modus operandi, why would a person calling themselves an atheist, why would a person call themselves an anti-Islamist adopt the modus operandi that's precisely associated with the Islamic terror attacks. There are just a lot of people asking a lot of questions. Do you think we know the full picture yet?
Well, I think that from what has emerged, the suspect is an anti-Islam activist. In my view, he comes across as a militant atheist, and I think that if you look at his social media content, which is there for public consumption, he actually developed a hatred of Germany because he believed that Germany was responsible for the Islamification of Europe. Now, if you are a militant atheist which looks to seek refuge and has been provided sanctuary in Europe, because you are an atheist and you originate from Saudi Arabia, but then you feel that the government, the people and the systems are ultimately responsible for the Islamification of Germany and the European continent at large. In my view, it is plausible that the suspect developed a hatred of Germany. So I think that what we have to look at here is when a refugee moves from the Middle East to Europe, if they develop fresh feelings of betrayal, rejection and persecution, why do they feel that way? And who or what do they hold responsible for having those feelings? Those are the questions that we should be asking.
But Rakib, a lot of people will be saying, irrespective. There we go, a radical atheist. That's a new one on me.
Well, a lot of people have been in touch. Probably you've emailed in about this, the fact that, radical atheism, really? A lot of people are just still not convinced at all.
Yeah, there's a huge question to ask about this individual's wanted to be deported to Saudi Arabia, and yet the German authorities stepped in and protected him and prevented that because his human rights came first. And now here we are. And there's an election coming up in February. I wonder if all of this, Anne, will have a profound effect on the outcome of those elections.
It will do, won't it? It really will do. When are the elections?
In February.
Trouble is, he won't come to trial before then, will he?
No, but the memory will be very,
the memory
very
will
in the
be,
forefront
but
of
we
people's
won't know the
mind, I'm
full
sure.
facts. Well, of course, we may never know the full facts because he may never tell us why he did what he did.
Okay, let's have a message of hope now, because during Advent, as we count down to Christmas Day, we're hearing from church ministers across the country. Each day they have a special message for you to celebrate the festive season, and here's today's.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 22.
Hi, I'm Chris Tufnell. I'm the vicar of Uterbridge Parish Church near Sheffield. At the end of the month, Buckingham Palace is going to publish the King's New Year Honours List. To get on that list, you have to do something really extraordinary, and it's often the result of a lifetime of work and achievement. Contrast that with how we'll honour each other on Christmas Day with the giving of presents, given not as a reward, but simply out of love. That second kind of honouring is what Christmas is all about. Jesus is the King who came at Christmas, not to honour extraordinary people for a lifetime of outstanding service, but to honour ordinary people, carpenters like Joseph, scared new mums like Mary, people working night shifts to try and make ends meet like the shepherds. He came to honour people like you and me. The Bible says, to those who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. That is the highest of honours, and it's on offer to you. Happy Christmas.
And you can see all of our special Advent messages as Christmas Day approaches by going to gbnews.com/Advent. And a very Merry Christmas to you.
Christmas is coming, isn't it? There's still plenty of time to grab a chance, though, to win our festive treat to you, which would really make your new year. An incredible 50 grand in tax-free cash. Here's how to take part in the competition.
There's just 3 sleeps till Christmas, and all through the land, GB News has the chance to win a nifty 50 grand. That's cash for the new year. You could go on a spree. And the best thing about it, it's totally tax-free. From Santa with love, you could be our winner. Just enter right now, or right after Christmas dinner. It's a cracker of a prize, guaranteed to enthrall. From all of us at GB News, Merry Christmas to you all.
For another chance to win, text cash to 6
63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
After the Hollywood ending that Wrexham Football Club have got, can Chorley FC benefit from a bit of the old celebrity magic dust?
I can't see why not. The guys have been down a few times now, and when they do come down, obviously they're bringing that with them. A little town like Chorley doesn't see much of the charts and big stars, so it's really nice to see them, and we always welcome them when they do come down.
And Mark, give us a flavour of the level of football. I understand you're in the National League North, right? That's 6 rungs down from the top flight. I mean, you're only just down the road from Manchester City, right? But I mean, give us a flavour of the two different worlds between your club and Man City.
Our players are all part-timers. So we've got kind of fitness coaches, we've got teachers, we've got all kinds of players who have full-time jobs alongside playing. Our average crowd is probably a tenth of what you get at Man City, probably even less than that. We get about 1,500 on a home game. The thing is, we know where we are and we understand where we are, and we are a real community club. Tonight, I'm ready now. I'm off to Marine, so off over to Merseyside. Playing the likes of Liverpool and Everton over on Merseyside would be kind of a dream come true. But we know where we are. We would just love to get to the Football League. So teams like Salford, Stockport County were in our division a couple of years ago, all flying now in the Football League. We just want to do the same. We sat down with the board last year and they told us the vision for the future, and that vision most definitely is that we want to be a Football League club. When we went to the Premier League, I know the boys have been saying that they 30 years will be in the Premier League and winning it. Well, let's hope we are, and let's hope I'm still around to see that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, all we've been talking about all morning is pork pie, and we sent our East Midlands reporter Will Hollis to Melton Mowbray, the home of pork pie, to find out more.
In the rural capital of food, the festive season is big for business. Famed for Stilton cheese and the Melton Mowbray pork pie, sales rise dramatically before Christmas. Connor is the head chef at March House Farm near Melton.
I would describe a pork pie as the traditional farmhouse comfort food. To me, the beauty of this pork pie is it's a labour of love. So here you won't see any added nasties, there's no preservatives.
A Melton Mowbray pork pie follows a strict recipe and can only be made locally. Hand-raised using ingredients from the farm, the team are preparing hundreds ahead of the big day. And not just for customers.
Not only do I enjoy making pork pies, I also enjoy eating pork pies.
Crunchy pastry and a jelly filling, Melton Mowbray pork pies are eaten every day across Britain. But in Leicestershire and the wider East Midlands, families wake up on Christmas Day and tuck into a pork pie for breakfast. Jo is manager at the farm.
We're going to be really busy, but we'll make sure we get those pork pies sorted for you.
It's been in her family for generations.
It's very popular throughout the year, but leading up to Christmas, hundreds and hundreds of pork pies will fly out of here. It might seem odd to other people, but to have a pork pie on Christmas morning is certainly worth it.
Pork pies became popular in the 1700s during hunting season. Matthew O'Callaghan from the Melton Mowbray Pork Pie Association has fought to protect the local delicacy. And for good reason. Rural foods like Stilton and the Mowbray pie add £100 million to the local economy.
People are going for a premium product and they know that they're going to be paying that little bit more for Melton Mowbray pork pie. And if you want the best, you have to pay for the best.
Melton Mowbray pork pies are loved around the world, and there are some fans here too.
Well, this time of year is just right for pork pies.
It's fantastic pork pie. I do love pork pie.
They look nice on your table for Christmas and they match the aesthetic, but they're not very nice and I wouldn't eat them.
While not everyone enjoys a slice of pork pie, for many it's top of their Christmas list. The first thing they think about.
Christmas morning, grab your pork pie, tuck in.
Will Hollis, GB News, Melton Mowbray.
What finer way to end our last Sunday morning programme before Christmas. Do have a happy one, won't you? Coming up next, it's the Camilla Tominey Show, but today it's with Tom Harwood, and we are munching into some really fabulous pork pies.
Cheers.
Absolutely. This ends 30 years of vegetarianism.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Metaverse. Well, as we look ahead towards Christmas, after a very windy and cold feeling day today, actually the weather does turn milder as we approach Christmas Day itself, but with plenty of cloud too. Back to the here and now for Sunday. It's going to be a very windy day, as I mentioned, across many parts, but especially so for many northern and western areas. Warnings are in force from the Met Office right throughout the day, so if you do have any travel plans, do allow some extra time for your journeys. Away from the wind, it's really going to be a day of sunny spells and scattered showers across many parts. Showers turn into sleet and snow, especially across the high ground in the north, and that strength of the wind really is going to make things feel bitterly cold. On the thermometer, we could see highs reaching around 7 to 9, but certainly feeling sub-zero, especially for parts of Scotland. So as we end the day, still some further showers moving in across many parts of Scotland. The sleet and snow across the high ground could just give a little bit of ice in places. Maybe fewer showers for
on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is Talk 9:25 already, 3 hours 25 minutes into Weekend Breakfast. Thanks ever so much for your company this morning. I'm asking, for Christmas, what would you like from the political establishment? Is there one gift that you would like? 0344 499 1000. Kevin in Macclesfield says, good morning, David. Good morning. Merry Christmas. This government promised the WASPy women they would sort them out. The blood scandal, the post office scandal, the pensioners. They told total lies to get them to vote Labour. We should have another election because they lied. Since when did lies become the truth? And the left wing called us far right because of what we said would happen has happened and is happening. And we said that terrorism would occur, and that is exactly what is happening. We're welcoming anyone into this country. I'm paraphrasing this slightly. We're right about everything we said. The left will go on denying we're right. One day they will wake up. We were right about Labour. They were lying to get votes. It is full of crooks. This makes the mafia look like angels. That's Kelvin in Macclesfield. Thank you for that. A very long and passionate message. This is rather lovely. Les in Cheshire says, good morning, David. The best gift you can give this Christmas is a donation gift to a child who has nothing. I would agree. agree. What a lovely sentiment. Good morning, David, says Pat. Good morning to you. Thank you to all your wonderful weekend show. You and the Talk team have helped to keep us sane during this very depressing time. Thank you. I wish you a very happy Christmas as well. Just one more. Good morning, David. Kim from Kent here. Read the train strikes due to not working. We were talking to Simon Calder about this. They don't want to work weekends. Well, let me tell you, David, I work in the care industry. It's 24/7, 365 days of the year as we are needed. But so is transport to get the care staff and nurses, doctors to work. Transportation is a necessity. It is not a luxury. And maybe some of these overpaid train employees and their indulged unions should remember this. I agree wholeheartedly with that. Thank you for that. Keep all of those messages coming in. Now, though, it's time, he hates me doing this, but Rupert's World Roundup. Very sadly, it's not going to play. Good morning, Rupert.
Good morning, David.
Well, you were saved, Rupert.
I know, I was building it up, and then sanity was restored.
Yeah, well, indeed. Where are you today?
I'm at Excel because I've been at the London International Horse Show all week. Ooh. So when it's the final day today, been great fun, great equestrian entertainment, and lots of people coming every day to enjoy some great sport, full stop.
Now, that's interesting because I understand also you were on Wednesday night at the British Equestrian Media Lifetime, or you gave an award, didn't you? Tell us more about that.
Well, I had the privilege of giving an award to Princess Anne for her. I am chairman of the British Equestrian Media Association, and we decided, voted basically to see if we could give Princess Anne a Lifetime Achievement Award, and she graciously accepted. And I had the privilege of presenting it to her at the end of the performance on Wednesday night, where she was attending the show because she is patron of the Riding for the Disabled, and they're the charity for the show, so she was there to meet that and also to meet some of our Olympic riders who've done so well in Paris. And so she was there at the show, and so it was an opportunity for us to present the award in front of a sellout crowd and appreciate the work she's done for the sport, because not only was she a brilliant rider in her own right, she's a former European champion, she's a former BBC Sports Personality of the Year, she competed in the 76 Olympics, but she's also been a very strong advocate for the sport, working as president of the FEI, and also she's worked very closely with the Olympic Association as well, sort of promoting equestrian sport. So it's something that, from a equestrian point of view, is thoroughly deserved, because she's been a true champion of all things equestrian.
I think we've got a picture, actually, of you presenting that award, just in terms of that. I mean, I think I've met her. I'm sure I met her many years ago. What's she like? I mean, would she be quite humbled by that?
She was. There's no two ways about it. Look, she's normally used to giving out prizes. Indeed, just before I had the opportunity to present that award, she'd given out a trophy to the winner of the Puissance competition. She'd given out another trophy to somebody else, and so the tables were turned on her. But you don't just turn up with a glass and do it. You have to sort this out before.
Yes.
But so she wasn't surprised by me. I wasn't doorstepping her.
Well, I have to say, Rupert, you look very much the part there. Congratulations on doing that as well. Look, we've got to go to a break, but after the break, I'm just really keen to look at some of the Christmas cards the royal family have sent out, what that says. I mean, we always kind of read into things and what the cards say about the families. Also, I think it's fair to say they've had one heck of a year, and we'll talk more about that. So Rupert will be rejoining me after this break. Don't go anywhere.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're in the middle of talking to Rupert Belden. Now I can do it because we have the technology. It's time for Rupert's Royal Roundup.
Rupert's Royal Roundup.
Couldn't resist, Rupert.
Well, never mind. Spirit of goodwill and all that.
Well, quite. Now, should we look at the Christmas cards? I mean, I don't know where you want to start here, but I mean, it's been a heck of a year for the royal family one way or another, hasn't it? And I suppose the Christmas cards kind of tie into that.
Yeah, they do. And if you think this time last year, the royal family were heading off to their Christmas break at Sandringham and in Norfolk, and all seemed serene. And of course, we saw the royal family out and about on Christmas Day. But then a couple of weeks later, it all unravelled with the news that both the King and indeed the Princess of Wales had gone into hospital and actually, obviously, subsequently discovered that both had cancer and are still undergoing various forms of treatment as a result. So certainly this 12 months has been a very different one from what they probably envisaged was going to happen at the start of the Christmas break. So when we look at the various Christmas cards, and certainly the Prince of Wales's Christmas card, you see it as a family gathering. From the pictures from their summer holiday in Norfolk, we obviously had seen a video of their time in the summer holidays, and this is a picture from that showing a sort of a happy family in many ways.
Do you know that is just such a lovely photograph, actually, of all of them?
Yes, and I think it's important, they know that, and that's what the Prince of Wales has been trying to do, make sure that he's there for his family and why he hasn't been out and about. But as you put it into context with regard to him, he's obviously got his father battling cancer and indeed his wife. And obviously in his case, should the worst happen, he then becomes king and his life changes, on a sixpence. So it's been a complicated year for him to negotiate away. But what I think they've always tried to maintain that their immediate family, i.e. their three children, come first. And the Princess of Wales has, we know how committed she is outside in her royal for the early years and helping children in those early years. But actually, in terms of being there for her children and helping them understand what their mother's going through has been a very much part of what she's been doing this year.
Let's move on to the King and Queen, because as you mentioned, the King being treated for cancer, he's still very upbeat. I mean, he's a man who likes to work. I think their card also is quite symbolic.
Well, yes. I mean, in terms of what they, showing a united front in terms, and how much he does depend on the Queen. Now, after that state visit when they went to Australia and Samoa, she too has had her own health problems when she, a serious chest infection that prevented her from carrying out her full set of duties. But she's been having to manage his time throughout the year, and they are very much a united front. And I think that's the important thing. She knows that she has to try and, in a sense, control his enthusiasm to be out and about and actually manage his recovery. And she has played an important part. But she's also made sure that she can try and get out as much as possible to be seen and helping get the royal family, the public face of the royal family out there, because they know it's so important that they are seen to engage with the British public and wherever they can.
Shall we talk about Harry and Meghan and their card?
If you insist.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, obviously we see the picture of them as a family with both the Duke and Duchess of Sussex greeting their children as they run towards them, a sort of happy family moment. But there's also, you have to say, trying to create and show what good they're doing. The sort of art aspect. And it's, they're saying, well, look at us. We are out there. But I think, you talk about the royal family in this country having a difficult year. They have had, I think, an equally as difficult year as they have failed, really, I think, at times to negotiate their way through and move on from all the spare the documentaries, because this time last year we had the book coming out. You know, I think it's been a learning curve for them, and I'm not sure they've done a brilliant job. And that polo documentary, and obviously I've been talking about a horse event, and I tell you what, the horsey world, and particularly the polo world I've been speaking to say it was not good. They did not enjoy watching it, and people who are in the sport, so in this country, think it was not good, and it hasn't been well received. We've obviously seen them now trying to work on different paths, you know, more individual rather than both being at events together. So I think they have got to really regroup and wonder where are they going to be in 12 months' time, and how is their life going to unfold from what they want to do. But I would suggest they haven't had a great year on not a commercial front. It's not been particularly successful.
Can we just look back at that card, actually? Because the other thing, and maybe this is me, but it's from Archwell Productions, Archwell Foundation. You're right. To me, it's kind of like, it's trying too hard, this. Also, I can't help notice it doesn't say Happy Christmas. It says Happy Holiday Season.
Yeah, and I don't know what the Duke of Sussex is. Happy Holidays is a very American thing to do. So you would suggest it was Meghan who had the call on that. It almost looks like a business card.
Yes, it does.
With the fact that they're showing this is what we're about. Now, yes, you have to do the family element, but why couldn't they just put out one with the family, just like anybody else, rather than, you know, the King hasn't put a picture of him being in Australia and everything else. Instead, they're just almost like trying to show, look at us, we're still relevant. It's trying too hard, in my eyes, as to what this card says. Sometimes you just have to, as they say, there's the great mnemonic, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid, and it goes a long way. And just overcomplicating it just adds to the sort of trying too hard element of where they are in and perceived now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's trying too hard there. Also, so just looking forward, of course, Christmas is a time of celebration of family. We look forward to the new year, new beginnings and so on. I still think the King's speech is an important part of Christmas. Do you have any sense of what the King will say? I'm assuming he'll draw on the fact that he's been very unwell, and he will be talking about the sanctity of life and I suppose new beginnings.
I think what he will say is the support of loved ones around him. We're sort of getting a sense also from what the Princess of Wales has been saying. Remember, her carol concert will be shown on Christmas Eve, I believe, and in the evening on ITV. She'll be talking about the importance of support from families and people around you and sharing love and empathy. And I think the King will be looking to do something similar because, you know, it's been a pretty difficult year. Forget the royal family. There's been a lot of dissension around the place, and he will be trying to say, look, let's just show a bit of love and care. And in many ways, that will be not only, you know, caring at home, but obviously on a wider scale. So this message isn't just for people in this country. It's part of the Commonwealth. It will be a message to all and sundry. So it will be interesting how he reflects on what for him will be not only battling cancer, but for him, he'll be deeply frustrated that he hasn't been able to do what he wants because of his condition.
And then finally, I think we need to talk about Prince Andrew, don't we? Of course, because his Christmas plans have rather changed.
Yes, and by his own undoing, once again, his choice of friends has put him into a right hotspot. And he should be thinking, and obviously this relationship with this alleged Chinese spy has really put his Christmas plans well and truly on the back burner, because the royal family didn't need him walking to church on Christmas Day because he'd be the story. And that's not what the royal family want. They know that he is creating some difficulties for them. There's a lot of eye rolling within palace corridors about his way he goes about his business at times. And obviously links with China, they're in the news at the moment for obvious reasons. And his close relationship with these people and setting up, and by all accounts, he set up a bank in China as well, bank account in China as well. So, you know, it's all a little bit unsavory. But unfortunately, throughout his life, his choice of friends has caused him problems, and it's yet another one. And how he goes forward, it's going to require maybe some eating of some humble pie, but it's not something that he does naturally.
Can I just ask, though, who's advising him?
He tends to advise himself. That was the problem. He thought it was a good idea to do the Emily Maitlis interview with other people, you know. So, unfortunately, the two people who caused the problems for the royal family, that's Prince Harry and Prince Andrew, don't tend to be one. They seem to be convinced at times by their rightness and their course of action. And sometimes you actually have to be able to read the room. And Prince Andrew's ability to do that is definitely in question.
Yeah, as they got called yesterday in the paper, or at least the palace referred to the two of them as the Dukes of Hazzard. And I think that's pretty apt, don't you?
I think that's as good a description as possible, because they are basically a permanent problem for the royal family when they've got other things to worry about. They want to move forward, and their lack of those two being around has obviously exposed, you know, the problems within the royal family in the sense that they're short on numbers. But we do know, and obviously we talked about Princess Anne, she's made sure she's as visible as she can be. The Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh have made sure they've stepped up to the plate and done as much as possible, but in a low-key way, but have definitely helped the King over this year. So for 2025, it will be a time of sort of regrouping and hoping that both the King and the Princess of Wales can complete their recovery and return to something like a more normal life.
Well, Rupert, it just remains for me to say a very happy Christmas to you as well. Are you doing something nice?
Well, I'm going home tonight after the horse show and probably have a big sleep tomorrow, and then I'll crank it up for Christmas, going to some friends for Christmas. And then in the new year, I'm off for a holiday for 3 weeks. So you may not be speaking to me till February, but I have to say, I admire your waistcoat. You wear it with confidence, David.
Thank you so much, Rupert. Have a really good Christmas. That's Rupert Bell, our royal commentator. And that was today's Rupert's Royal Roundup.
Rupert's Royal Roundup.
Talking of Christmas, if you were to wish for a Christmas present from the political classes, what would it be? The number 0344 499 1000. Steve, good morning to you. It's news to me that train staff don't work weekends. That's not quite what we were saying. I've been on the railway 25 years. I could have sworn I've worked 3 out of 4 weekends. This weekend happens to be my weekend off. But you seem to think my rostered rest days I should be forced to work. Sorry, I'm not getting into uniform. Try telling the truth to your ill-informed listeners, as I suspect you are just stirring the pot. That's not what we're saying. What we were talking about is the number of train cancellations, and the fact is that people who rely on the train to get to their workplace or to go and visit relatives, it's just such an unreliable network now, and something needs to give on that. And so the government has paid huge pay increases to people who work on the trains, and the public aren't seeing the benefit of that. And that is, I think, the concern and the anger that's being directed back at those who work on the railway. But obviously you work very hard, and I think it's about changing working practices across the network. Now, we'll go to a break. After the break, I'll take some of your calls, your thoughts. We've got some voice notes as well. I'll be doing all of those after this break. This is Weekend Breakfast. Good morning.
done anything like this before? I mean, I don't know enough about your history, really, but, I mean, have you ever done anything like this, and was it hard finding a place to record it and put it out there?
No, I've never done anything like this at all, Mike. And to be honest, the whole thing, I basically made it from my computer at home. You know, I hired a guy to do the vocals. He had his own booth. He did that. He sent them to me. I hired a second guy to do the video. And then I did all the work in between, putting it together and producing the track just at home, basically. So it was all just done essentially in my bedroom.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the final part already of Weekend Breakfast, 9:50, Sunday, December the 22nd. Today is going to be crazy, by the way, when you go out shopping. If you have to get those last-minute gifts, and hopefully earlier on we were able to give you some inspiration for those people that are tricky to buy for. Tomorrow, by the way, Manic Monday. Also, Simon Calder was telling us that there is quite a lot of chaos out there in terms of the roads, so make sure you check before you travel. After 11 o'clock, he was telling us, is better on the roads, or leave it till later tonight. If you're flying, do check the airports. Lots of flights being cancelled because of the strong winds. Heathrow particularly badly affected, according to Simon, so do check. Ferries also cancelled, so make sure you check as well before you travel. And we were talking about the trains as well. Big stations are being closed in London, and some other problems around the country as well. So once again, the advice is to check before you travel. So I'm asking, for Christmas, what would you like from the political class? The number 0344 499 1000. Lynn from Staines, good morning to you. A Christmas gift from the political elite would be a no confidence vote in a general election. That seems to be a sentiment that's pretty much echoed by a lot of people. Angie, hi, Dr. David. I don't need anything for Christmas. I just wish I hadn't contracted norovirus 3 days before Christmas. So now it's cancelled. I am so sorry. Fluids, rest, paracetamol. Look, hopefully, I mean, hopefully it won't last that long. She goes on to say, have a great Christmas, David, to you and everyone at Talk. Well, happy Christmas to you, and I do hope you feel better soon. Mark in Devon, good morning to you. Merry Christmas, says Mark. Good morning, David. Fantastic show as always. Thank you. Just a thought, how about a Christmas present that hasn't gone viral on social media, or something that isn't some Chinese-made rubbish that will be in landfill before the end of January? Good point. A present that has been thought about, something special, selected with thought and care, and not by an influencer. You know, just how it used to be. Just a thought. Mark, happy Christmas to you as well. Let's also move on to some voice notes. Here's one from Patty. Good morning.
Morning, David. You're both looking stunning this morning. Merry Christmas to you both. I think the problem with our governments, the Tories, particularly over the last years, is that we were in the EU too long and they've forgotten how to actually run a country. They were just waiting to be told what to do all the time. Absolutely useless. Well, have a lovely, lovely Christmas.
Thank you, and to you. And, of course, you were referring to Charlie Rowley, who came as a rather resplendently in a gingerbread man outfit. That's a really good point, actually, that actually governments have forgotten how to govern. And I think you can see that with the Labour government, where they actually have no idea what they're doing. But that's understandable. They've been in opposition for so long. But for many people, including many of our viewers, what is unforgivable is the about turn, the fact there is abject, well, it's lying, isn't it? They said they wouldn't do something, and then they definitely did do the things they said they wouldn't do. Let's take another voice note now. This is Ian. Good morning.
Hi, David. It's Ian from France. You know what I'd like from our politicians? The truth.
Well, that's a good one. Yeah, the truth. I think that's truth and honesty, integrity. I keep going on about vision as well. That's what I think. I just don't see a vision. Where does the government want us to be in, say, 12 months or 24 months or at the end of this electoral cycle? Where are we going to be? Are we going to be feeling richer? Are we going to be warmer? Are we going to feel more secure? Is the world going to be a safer place? That's what I think we want to hear. Let's get another one now. This is Martin, who's left a voice note.
Good morning, David. This is Martin in Oxfordshire. I want one thing, first and foremost. I want my country back.
Well, that's a good one. I wonder, back from where? I mean, what sort of country is that? I think we also spoke about assimilation earlier with Charlie. The fact is that if you come to this country, or if you're born into this country and you're third generation, then integration is key. So that we all have shared values and shared belief systems, and I think that's really important. Jenny in Oxford says, David, my Christmas present would be a repeal of Human Rights Act replaced with a British Bill of Rights, putting us at the front of the queue. That's Jenny in Oxford. Who's this? Darren in Twickenham. Good morning, David. I'd like 3 wise men to visit the Houses of Parliament and deliver 3 gifts: intelligence, integrity, there you go, and empathy. Thank you, Darren in Twickenham. Great waistcoat. Thank you very much. Happy Christmas and very happy Christmas to you as well. Joe Clark, I'm sorry, apparently you're closing your business. I'm assuming that's because of the adverse trading conditions. This is Mark in Selby. A happy Christmas to you. What I want for Christmas from our politicians is to tell the truth, protect UK citizens, our politics and politicians. Steve Smedley, good morning to you. Steve makes this point about Rachel Reeves, of course, very odd, turning her fire onto Nigel Farage and Reform UK. He says if Rachel Reeves is concentrating her fire on a party with only 5 MPs, then Reform must be doing something right. Thanks ever so much for all your messages this morning. Well, a very festive Peter Cardwell joins me this morning.
Always festive. Hello,
You're
David. How are you doing?
Good morning. Yeah, no, I'm all right.
That is quite the waistcoat there.
What's wrong with it?
Blue. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm saying I'm admiring it. It's blue and it's shiny.
I look like wrapping paper.
Yes, good point.
Yes,
Good point. Well,
I think I do. We've had a tremendous show, actually. People very exercised by what is going on around the world. And what's coming up?
Well, we're asking a similar question, not quite the same question to you, but we're saying who do you think the political Grinch is? Who's the one who's been the political Grinch this year? Well, I think some people might say that.
I mean, come on, it's the answer. That's the answer.
This story about 45% of charity donations going to the Exchequer, I mean, that is not good at all.
But you know, they've asked for an exemption from the Treasury, and of course she said no.
Yeah, of course. Well, you look at hospices, you look at the national insurance contributions for them, for GPs' practices.
But by the way, I just have to tell, I don't know if you saw this, Starmer sold some land, right? And he sold the land and netted £400,000, and it wasn't a huge amount of land. So how he can turn around and say that the majority of farms are not affected by his policy of inheritance tax, I mean, none of it makes any sense.
Well, I just don't think he understands farming, to be honest. I think he often doesn't understand things that are outside Islington, which I'm afraid is the case for many.
There aren't many farms in Islington.
There aren't many farms in Islington. No. There are many politicians who don't understand things beyond the end of their nose in many respects, and from lots of different parties. We'll get the latest on the German Christmas market attack. We'll talk about Rachel the Grinch Reeves. We'll talk about Elon Musk as well. Also, the grocery tax to push up shopping bills. This is really bad, especially coming up to Christmas as well. And net zero is an element of this as well. So it's because of net zero that they're charging more for the packaging. Unsurprisingly, those bills are going to go up, and that's going to hit you and me and everybody else here in their shopping bills.
But it's extraordinary because Michael Gove was going to introduce this, dropped it. Labour's pushed it through, quietly gone through. I hadn't heard anything about it. Of course, it's now passed.
We had a big and spirited debate yesterday about Sarah Sharif and the fact that the judges won't be named, the earlier judges, the family court judges and so on. And a higher court judge has put a gag on that, saying that the press can't be trusted to discuss this. So what implications does it have for free speech? We'll be speaking to a social worker and director of a consultancy around this. Would be really interesting. We're also talking about Afghanistan hasn't been forgotten, veterans at Christmas.
That's a good one.
And Afghan veterans serving at this time.
I think that's really important, veterans at Christmas.
Of course it is. We've got to remember it. We're going to talk about Christmas travel as well. And the most important thing is, can I get to the airport after the programme?
Are you flying?
I am indeed.
Have you checked? Because there are very strong winds according to some.
I know.
Oh, you do?
Yes, well.
And are you all right?
Lots of Brussels sprouts around, so often strong winds.
Do you think you'll be all right?
My flight seems to be taking off from the airport. It seems to be going okay.
Very good.
Heading to the Emerald Isle, of course, and we'll talk about small businesses as well, because we had Small Business Saturday, obviously a couple of weeks ago. Loads of small businesses wanted us to talk to them, and so we're promoting them. Coming up to Christmas, a couple more small businesses.
And we were talking about last-minute Christmas presents, and of course the other thing is to go onto the high street and go into those small businesses.
You don't have to buy everything from online retailers.
No, you don't. So obviously you're a Larry lightweight, leaving for Christmas. When are you back?
I'm back in a week's time, so I'll be back on Drive on Monday the 30th.
You lucky chap. Well, I hope you have a brilliant Christmas. I hope the show goes well as well.
Thank you very much indeed. Merry Christmas to you, David.
Thank you, and to you, and thank you very much to all of you for everything this morning. I will be back, actually. No Christmas for me at the moment. I'll be back tomorrow for breakfast from 6. Hope you can join me then. Until then, bye.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Well, a very good morning. I'm Peter Cardwell, just putting on my earpiece because it fell off. Thank you so much for your company this morning here on Talk. I'm here between now and 1 o'clock. It's my final show before Christmas. I'm heading off the Emerald Isle afterwards, but plenty to discuss before then, including Rachel Reeves stealing 45% of your donations to charity in taxation. We'll get the latest on the German Christmas market attack. And we'll talk about Elon Musk and his fixation with Britain, some are calling it. There's a net zero grocery tax to push up shopping bills by £1.4 billion. We'll talk about that and how that is affecting people. That is a sort of a stealth tax that has come in. And also shoppers splashing £2.8 billion on last-minute gifts on Manic Monday as they scramble to pick up presents and food in the final 2 days before Christmas. We'll talk to Kevin Hollingreck as well. He is the Shadow Housing Secretary for the Conservatives. We did ask to speak to Lucy Powell from Labour, but she hasn't got time this morning. We will hear a little bit from one of our other interviews this morning from her. We had quite a spirited debate yesterday about Sarah Sharif, about this girl, 15 different opportunities missed to save her. The judges can't be named in all those different family court cases because a judge has said that that shouldn't happen. Is that the right thing? And how do we unpack this to make sure it doesn't happen again? But I mean, I just don't have confidence that it will. Marcella Leonard, who is a social worker, will talk to us about that. We'll also talk to Johnny Ball. We'll check in with him. Johnny's been on the show before. He's the host of the Veterans in Politics podcast, and he's got some really interesting ideas around veterans at Christmas, those who have served, keeping us safe both at home and abroad, and also the fact that Afghanistan is very quickly becoming a forgotten conflict. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Christmas travel as well. I will declare an interest in that. I'm heading off. Also, we will discuss our small businesses. Last one of these of the year. We know that small businesses are struggling at the moment, and we've decided to profile a couple of small businesses in every show right up until Christmas, so the final one of those today. What we're also going to do today is check in with 3 or 4 different people who have made a big impression this year in terms of callers. So people who give me a ring, just like you can today on 0344 499 1000. There are quite a few people. We'll be remembering what they have told us over the year, and we will be checking in with them and wishing them, seeing how they've developed, how things have changed for them, and also wishing them a very, very Merry Christmas. One of those, of course, will be Teresa, who we spoke to previously, who was worried about keeping warm this winter, and there was a really overwhelming response to that. We'll be checking in with Teresa. We'll be checking in with Mark in Lincolnshire as well. We spoke to him last week. He said he hadn't received a Christmas card in 3 years. Lots to discuss. Let us know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can give me a shout on text as well, 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at TalkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell, and remember, voice notes of less than a minute, if you would. You can send me those on 0344 499 1000. We had some excellent voice notes yesterday, but someone had me on in the background whilst recording the voice note. So not often I say this, but mute me and then record your voice note and then turn the sound up again and send it in via WhatsApp, 0344 499 1000. You can send me a text message via WhatsApp on that number as well, and you can give me a ring as well. We talk to as many people as we can between now and 1 o'clock. As you know, this is my show, but it's your show too, and as the final one before Christmas, I want to make sure I speak to as many people as possible. So let me know your thoughts, 0344 499 1000. Stay with us here on Talk. Well, Phil in Hertfordshire has been in touch already. He says, good morning, Peter, regarding the 45% tax rate on the charities. I think it's just an added pressure on the charities because now a lot of them don't take cash. They only take card payments and direct debits. So people are using less cash. The charities are going to suffer anyway. And I don't know why they don't keep taking cash. Well, listen, this is a really interesting one, Phil, because I have been I'm not sort of saying I'm Mother Teresa or anything, but I've done a few charity collections in my time, and often you're in I mean, look, this is in London in my case, in London Bridge Station actually, for a great charity, the Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation. I've done a few sort of bucket collections for them, and the number of people who say, I just don't have any cash, I'd like to give you a donation. And there was one bucket collection we did where we had, I think, 1 or 2 card machines, and we did okay, and we're very, very grateful, and every penny helps, of course, and not turning any cash away. But towards the next one we did, all of the sort of 6 or 8 of us had card machines, and we just took in so much more because people are willing, even if it's £1 or £2 or whatever donation they're giving, they're often willing to give a bit more if it is a card donation. Maybe it doesn't quite feel as if you're giving much away. But if you think about it, a lot of people don't carry cash now. I do carry cash myself, but I don't use it that often. So it's an interesting, very, very interesting point, Phil, and it will come into our discussion now with Matthew Goodwin-Freeman and Matthew Torbett, 2 political commentators. I don't quite know who the genius is who had 2 Matthews on the same panel, both with beards. But yeah, Chris, the producer, raising his hand there. But nonetheless, thank you to him for having both Matthews in the studio today. Matthew Goodwin-Freeman, maybe you could start with you. You're a Conservative councillor as well, I know. This point on Rachel Reeves, the Grinch Reeves, says the Mail on Sunday, stealing 45% of your donations. This is 45 pence, and every pound donated to charity will now effectively go to the government. National insurance rate adding another 1.4 billion to wage bills. So this analysis by the Mail on Sunday saying that there is so much of this charity cash going. I mean, many people giving money to charities, especially at Christmas, may well feel shortchanged.
Yeah, I mean, this just doesn't feel right for me. I don't know about you, Matthew, but Rachel the Grinch from Accounts at Reeves, I mean, 45 pence in every pound donated to charity will now effectively go to the government. That just doesn't feel right.
What should they do? Because, and I suppose it's the question of where you draw the line as well, because if you look at, for example, let's take something that's maybe less emotive than charity giving, but something like GPs practices. I mean, they are essentially private businesses, even though they supply services to the NHS. And should they have an exemption from these national insurance contributions from employers, especially when you have GPs who might be earning 120 grand a year?
GPs, hospices, it's been raised so many times in Parliament. What do you think? I think hospices, for example, should be exempt. I don't think they should be having these extra charges on them. But it just doesn't, honestly, for me, it doesn't feel right that what this government is doing is taking money from pensioners, taking money from farmers, now taking money from charities. I mean, charities are something where actually, you know, you all go in, you buy an extra mug you don't need for the cupboard and everything like that, and you say, yes, I'll do the gift aid because there's that bit extra money. But if you knew that half of that was going...
Gift aid is a way I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying I'm Mother Teresa, but I've just given a little bit of money to charity for Christmas, and that is, you know, you tick the gift aid thing, that's what you do, and that gives you some money back. Of course, there are huge pressures on the economy. Rachel Reeves would say that your party, the Conservative Party, actually left them in this situation, and this is what they've had to do.
I'm sure she would, and if she could point to any evidence that there actually was a £22 billion black hole, and if she could point to any evidence that actually giving bumper pay rises to the unions instead of actually fixing the economy, then I'd be happy to have that discussion with her.
Shouldn't she have ended the junior doctor strike? Shouldn't she have ended the as-left train workers strike?
More than happy to end a strike as long as you get better services at the end of it, instead of just paying out so that the strike stops. That's the difference between what we were doing as a government and what Labour were doing. We wouldn't stop the strikes if we weren't having better quality services. Labour went, what do you want? OK, fine, here you go.
Matthew Torbert, what do you make of this issue?
Rachel Reeves probably would say that, and she'd be right. We can talk about 22 billion black holes, numbers, whatever. Do any of you know anybody that feels better off at the moment than they did 14 years ago?
You can't just frame the well, no, absolutely. No one feels better off now than they did when the election was.
Well, you can frame it as 14 years or indeed the election. That is the question. It's a very pertinent question that Matthew asks in politics. Indeed, Ronald Reagan, very much the hero of many Conservatives, says that as well when he asked the question years ago and said, do you feel better off under the Republicans? Do you feel better off or not? And it's a reasonable question, is it not?
Well, what I would say is, you talk about 14 years. Well, actually, I'm more than happy to say the last few years have been a disaster. We had COVID, we had everything after that, we had the war in Ukraine. I completely get that in those years, people felt worse off. I completely get that. But you can't just blanket the last 14 years,
Okay, fine. I mean, you guys were in charge 14 years, but if we wanted to do the last 3 years, we can look at Liz Truss's...
I wasn't personally in charge.
No. You guys as in Matthew
the Conservatives
or whatever, I think you can look at the highest tax rate since post-war, cutting the arm...
Which is now increased.
No, I agree. I don't agree with that, but what I'm saying is decisions have got to be made by governments, and without sounding like some Labour Party apparatchik, you know, these decisions are always going to annoy people. Where I'd have probably differed from the Labour Party, and where I think political choices could be better made, is you could have not done this, you could have not cut the winter fuel allowance, and you could have not done the farmers, and what you could have done, personally, for those that have the most, is you could have put up corporation tax by 2%. That would have brought in £14 billion, and you would have had change to spare despite all of this. I think you could have still hit
businesses, though.
Absolutely, but you're going to hit somebody, unfortunately, because of the gaping hole in the economy.
The whole point that Rachel Reeves wants on how Labour have bet the farm is growth, and 2.5% growth, and you're not going to get 2.5% growth unless you make life easier for businesses big and small.
No, and that's why I was astounded that because interest rates are low, why she's not borrowed to invest. I think you need to use every lever you can, and I found it bizarre that in an election that we were so obviously going to win, even if you'd have probably done the winter fuel, then you'd have still romped home to victory, maybe not with a large enough majority, but you boxed yourself in with what is essentially your bread and butter on things like tax and national insurance. People were probably half expecting taxes to go up just because people are fed up of government and fed up of the country. And with regards to better services, I agree, but that ain't going to happen overnight. That's a long-term strategy because of the state of public services.
And we could have started by now. You know, the thing I will agree with you there is, what I find really frustrating is this was not in the manifesto or in the promises or in the pledges or in the discussions when we were having the general election. And it does feel
like... we were told everything was costed.
Yeah, well... It does feel like
until they won the Treasury,
election.
remember?
They won the election on a bunch of promises, and then since day one, it's been right. Here's our completely other mandate and what we're actually going to do, and that's what people are fed up with. And this is another thing.
Hang on a minute. Right. What promises? What did we promise?
You promised that you
promised nothing.
You promised you wouldn't increase national insurance. Then you said, "Oh well, we will increase it, but for businesses and employers, we won't increase it for everyone." The working people definition I love. The working people definition I love, because by that logic, pensioners, farmers, and charity workers aren't working people.
No, I agree. That's why I thought it was a bizarre comparison to make. But my point is, you're saying things like you went in on a bunch of promises. The only thing I ever saw from the Labour Party during the general election was to promise to not be the Tories.
And then a lot of people are now saying, actually, they are, if not worse.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. There was no promises, and in fact, the manifesto said very little, unless you dug into it towards the back pages.
I remember bringing a print out of it here. It's the first time I've ever bothered to print out the Labour manifesto.
That's the whole point of this lack of political strategy. And I saw John Curtis say last week, Labour will not win without a vision. There's no vision, there's no story.
Yeah. Do you feel there's a vision? Do you feel there's a story, Matthew?
I don't know, do you? I have no idea. I think this is the problem. Margaret Thatcher had a vision, she had a story, she had a background. Tony Blair had the same. Gordon Brown had similar, despite not really winning an election. I think without that, without a narrative, you can do all the work. They could get the 2.5% growth. We've just seen in America, you can do all the work on the economy. Unless people are feeling it, unless you're telling people exactly what
I'm sure Matthew Goodwin Freeman would say he's got a plan for change. You know, it's all fine. It's all, like, you know, problems not pain now, but you know, things will be better later on.
But that's the problem. If you premise every conversation and every speech with things are going to be bad now, but then they're going to get better, and you're going to be, you know, like, if you premise, he's done it in every speech as a carbon copy robotic speech of, you know, I made tough decisions and this is this. Look, at the end of the day, you have to give people a vision, as we've all said. You have to give people something to hope towards, but you can't say you'll get that in the future, but right now, dipping into the pocket again.
I remember a very senior person in the Conservative government once saying to me that you need, as you say, hope, but also competence. Is there a sense that there's competence in your view as a former, as a person who worked for the Labour Party, not anymore, but Matthew Torbett, do you feel there's competence? Do you feel, you know, as we were told when this election was happening, the adults are back in charge?
That tells you everything.
I think there's some competent people within the Labour Party and the Labour government. I think we are rapidly at risk of, well, we already are seen as a middle-class endeavour, supporting or being part of the Labour Party. I think we've dropped the ball with regards to reform because we've allowed them to be the arbiters of common sense speech, and actually that was what Labour always were. They were a party for the workers, they were a party for people, ordinary people that would have frustrations and hopes and whatever else, and at the moment that isn't the case. Do I think that can be turned around? Yeah, if you bring different people in. I think unfortunately across the political spectrum, can I add, we are surrounded by people that are totally out of touch, totally from all the same background, similar types of people, and without that. And I think we talk a lot about diversity, and I'm a big fan of diversity. I think it can work in many ways. The one element of diversity we never quite touch on, and I think is a massive barrier to getting on, but also to allowing other people to get on if you're advising politicians, is class.
Yeah,
totally and utterly social class.
Yeah.
And without that, we have, within number 10, and I don't hold it against people being privately educated, but you're only getting one understanding of life. You're privately educated, come from a wealthy background, white and male, and without that,
Angela Rayner's none of those things. She's Deputy Prime Minister.
She's not in number 10. I'm on about number 10 specifically, and if the message is coming from the top down, where you have a Prime Minister who was also very middle class but masquerades as a working class champion.
Was his father a toolmaker? Sorry, I missed that.
Can we just check that, please?
I think he owned the tool shop. But,
he made a very big tool, I can
so
tell you that.
No, I think there has to be drastic change of the people in and around you. And if you put your trust in the people...
Do you think he's going to survive?
I gave him 2 years on election night. I think the 2026 locals, along with Wales and Scotland, which we will lose both of. And I hate being this sort of doom and gloom disaster merchant. It's the way I see it. I speak to people back home. I speak to people all over. No, but everybody hates the government.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. We're so short into this.
Well, the question we're asking today is, who is your Christmas political Grinch? Who do you think is the one that should be spoken about? Who is the political Grinch of Christmas? I see that the producers there have helpfully just added a picture of Rachel Reeves there. So we wouldn't like to influence your mind in any way. It could have been me. That is true, as Tuck Up Dave says in my ear. 0344 499 1000 is the number. It's Kelvin and Sue in Macclesfield say, morning Peter, Rachel Thieves is my political Grinch, just living up to her name, Thief. The Mafia are worried because she's the mother of all mothers. The black hole is part of the big black hole they left the last time they were in power. Remember the note, there's no money left. These liars have short memory. She has no clue about running a chip shop, never mind the country. Merry Christmas and have a good holiday back home, says Kelvin. Well, thank you, Kelvin. Merry Christmas to you and Sue as well. Tony says, Merry Christmas to you and everyone at Talk. This government has made a series of catastrophic decisions that are hurting voters, yet they don't even care. Stuart says, sorry to give bad news to your listeners just before Christmas, but Rachel from accounts will have to raise taxes again. Labour's manifesto is based upon 2.5% growth, which will not happen. I mean, all the forecasts say that won't happen. They could, of course, be wrong. Keir Starmer essentially hoping it will happen, but we'll see. Labour's manifesto was based upon 2.5% growth, which will not happen. Rachel and Starmer will lie and blame the tax U-turn on something else, but the root cause will be this Labour government, says Stuart. Will Reeves now reduce foreign aid by 45%, says Mick in Wallington. And thank you to Claire, who says, what a Merry Christmas message from Rachel Reeves, so she's taking 45% of charity donations and tax. Is this to prop up the illegal migrant hotels and housing charitable causes? Disgusting, disgraceful, and to be honest, the money will run out just like a skewered bucket. There's a lovely little poem that Simon has sent me. I'm going to read it at the end of the programme, Simon, but do stay in touch. Do stay listening for that. It would be perhaps more appropriate just at the end rather than when we're talking about who we think the political Grinch of Christmas is. We're going to talk in a second a little bit more about Germany and what has happened, what more we know now, 24 hours on or further than that, more like 36 hours on, and also Elon Musk's fixation with Britain and the fact that the Observer newspaper is saying that actually we could be in a situation where legislation is brought in to stop him giving money to Reform UK. What do you think about that? 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.